Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dive Into Diet. I'm with the star of the show, Lucas Schmidt, and Lucas has calculators. He's got numbers. I'm all intimidated.
Uh-oh.
I'm intimidated.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we doing? What are we doing today?
Talking about protein. Yeah. Protein. That's protein. I don't know. I said it like an animal. I don't know why.
But, protein, makes sense.
How much is really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know. I'm just kidding. Well, depends on the person. Shocker. I'm sure everyone's surprised to hear that. We're just going to discuss different calculations for protein amounts based on maybe what you want and or there are actually different recommendations from different authoritative, put that in quotes. I'm very skeptical of authority. Authoritative organizations around health. So, first of all, if you were to go online and risk Googling things like this, you would run into most of these formulas using kilograms, which is what every other country almost on this planet uses for weight, aside from the U.S.
Yep.
We use pounds. So it's not a criticism of either. It's just an
a
objective reality.
It's a reality.
But because of that, I'm going to tell you, one, I'm not going to bog you down with this very specific. Well, I guess I'll give it to you. I wrote it out. You need to calculate your weight in kilograms. So that way, if you decide to research this, you don't have to, but I'm going to tell you how to do it.
Okay.
If you decide to take from this podcast and research further, it would be helpful to know this. You take your weight in pounds and multiply it by, you need a calculator. Well, unless you're like really good at math. I'm not. I'm terrible. I forget it. I'm going to let this machine do it for me. 0.453592 is the exact number.
Okay.
And you multiply that by your weight in pounds, and you will get your weight in kilograms. So I'm going to do that now for you.
I'm ready.
How much do you weigh?
How
How intrusive of me.
I know. I think it's safe to say right now 170.
Okay. So I'm going to take this long number times 170. You weigh 77.1 kilograms.
77 kgs.
Kgs. So
Okay.
with that number, we might use it later. We might not. So actually, I'm going to use it now. So the World Health Organization, which is a world health, therefore they use kilograms, advises for basic health, we'll talk about what that means, that you multiply 0.8 grams of protein by your weight in kilograms. My thoughts on that. You actually get a fairly low number. So your weight in kilograms times 0.8 is 61.6 grams of protein per day. In the fitness world, that sounds really low.
61 grams a day?
Yeah. Does that sound high to you? Or
Sounds low.
Sounds low because you work out a lot.
Yep.
To some people, that sounds really high. They're like, what do you mean? 61 grams? That's a lot of protein. I don't think I can do that. Actually, you can, and you should. I'll tell you why. Their recommendation, the World Health Organization, that is to just prevent malnutrition. So that doesn't mean optimal, right? Staving off malnutrition in the form of it's protein malnutrition. I shouldn't say like general, like I'm starving to death. That's to prevent any kind of health complications associated with a deficiency in protein.
Yep.
Or amino acids, which is protein. So their recommendation for that is 0.8 times your weight in kilograms daily. So I'm not interested in staving off just starvation. I'd like to be optimal. I'd like to be above the baseline. So let's move on to that. And now we get to go by pounds. Yay. So this is actually, optimal to me is a little bit of growth, right? I want to grow some muscle, especially if you're over 40. You should be trying to grow a little bit of muscle because you'll develop sarcopenia, which is muscle loss due to age.
Yep.
A natural occurrence, but you can fight that. You can fight. And you can fight by moving weight, strength training, and consuming adequate levels of protein. So I'm going to give actually, I'll use the kilogram number first. To gain a little bit of muscle or maintain 1.2 grams of protein times your body weight in kilograms.
So 1.2
is the baseline.
Baseline times 77.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's take 77 times. I rounded it up down to 77. It's easier than decimal. Times 1.2. It's 92 grams of protein. Okay, a little bit more realistic if you're in the fitness area. So that's the sort of general guideline across the planet.
Yep.
But majority doesn't always mean correct. But that is the sort of consensus amount. There's not really a full consensus on this issue. Just like every other nutritional issue, it's contested. But it's a fairly good start. We can use that number.
I mean,
I'm fine with that number to start.
Well, and the other thing is like we hear this every day. Like if you're not intentional about counting your protein grams, you're probably not getting enough.
Yeah, so usually for me, what happened to me when I decided to be intentional was I was like, okay, I run this number, and I do this with a lot of clients or patients. That's usually my main advice. You need to be eating more protein in your diet. You're just not getting enough. There's a couple reasons for that. One, protein, you're less likely to be hungry generally if you're eating adequate levels of protein. You are satiated. Your body is A-okay. It's not craving a lot. And it's not maybe in the moment. Like if I eat it, listen, I could eat a steak and still be hungry.
Yeah.
In the moment, in that 15 minutes after. I'm talking generally throughout the day. If you're at really high levels of protein, you're probably not going to be hungry. And in the previous episode, we talked about how I'm trying to gain weight, and it's really hard because I'm just not hungry enough. It's because I eat a lot of protein. So fiber will also do that, by the way. But fiber, to me, is more of an in-the-moment full. Like, I eat a bunch of fiber, I'm kind of full pretty quick right now. Protein, to me, is long-term. So, generally, though, if you're trying to maintain muscle, I think this is a good start. So, you take 1.2, multiply it by your weight in kilograms. It's a good start. Now, let's go with the poundage way. For intense or like really focused muscle growth. Generally, what I could find, I'm averaging what I'm finding. There's a lot of different research on it, but there's a range that I would advocate for. It's just 0.8 grams of protein up to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That is substantially more than per kilogram. And I'll give you an example. What was your weight one more time?
170.
So 0.8. Now I'm going by pounds. 170. 136 grams of protein.
Interesting.
A lot of protein. That's a lot. And that's the lower end of the extreme muscle gain. But that should yield you some results if you're really focused on your strength training and you're trying to grow muscle.
And again, you have to be active with that amount of protein intake.
Yes.
You need to be.
This is for strength training, activity level.
Yeah.
I would use the 92 gram and maybe a little under, maybe like 1 gram per kilogram range of body weight for just general.
Yeah.
But everyone should be active. You should all be doing a little bit of strength training for your health.
Yeah.
Unless there's some genetic diseases that prevent that.
Right.
That's the exception, not the rule. Most people should be actively participating in strength training regularly every week.
Yeah.
It's probably this, other than like quitting smoking, one of the number one things you can do to save your own life or to prevent premature death.
And that's probably why your main piece of advice to your patients is, eat more protein.
Correct.
'Cause we're expecting that you're going to be strength training in some capacity.
Yes, and even if you're not, most people are deficient in protein.
Yeah.
Even if you're not strength training.
Yeah.
Eating more protein isn't going to kill you. There's some myths out there that eating lots of protein is bad for your kidneys.
Yeah.
It's outdated. It's not. If you have normal functioning kidneys, okay, I'm not a physician. I'm not going to speak to those who have kidney failure. Okay, that's a Dr. Rogers episode maybe. If you have functioning kidneys, there's 2 of them. They're efficient, but also that's not based in any kind of like direct research that says if you eat a bunch of chicken, your kidneys are going to shut down.
Right.
If you're adequately drinking water, your kidneys should be working great. And if you're supplying your organs with enough tissue, which comes from protein, they should be doing their job just fine. So So back to anyway. So for extreme muscle growth, just to recap, zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. For a general health sort of middle ground, I would calculate your weight in kilograms, which I gave you at the beginning of the episode, and then multiply. You could even go 0.9 to 1.2 grams of protein. Multiply that by your weight in kilograms, and that would give you a good foundation.
And I will say, like, this is a good number to know. Like, know, like, how much protein you want to be intaking, because you can work backwards everywhere else.
Yeah. And you don't have to track it and weigh your food, and you don't have to do that. What I like to do is just bring an awareness of protein consumption to your mind, and you don't have to memorize how much protein is in all these things. Watch this. I'm going to do this live. Hopefully the mic will pick this up. Hey, Google. How many grams of protein in 6 ounces of chicken?
There are 46 grams of protein in 6 ounces of roast chicken.
Wow. It has to be roasted, though. No, I'm just kidding. So if you're at a restaurant, they usually put the ounceage for any cut of meat you're getting.
Yep.
And if they don't, when you buy your chicken or beef or turkey or whatever at the grocery store, it says ounceage and it approximates. It also has a fun thing on the back called a nutrition label that gives you grams of protein per serving. So, and again, you don't have to log it if you don't want to. That's tedious. What I do is if I sit down for a protein meal, I go, this is approximately, I calculate it's an estimation in your mind. Okay, that's about 30 grams of protein. Great. I've just eaten 30 grams of protein. So in my next meal, I'm eating 4 eggs. Okay, 6 grams of protein per egg. Again, you don't have to memorize that. You can look it up pretty quick. Okay, 24 more grams, et cetera. And you just keep a running bank in your mind. So the end of the day, did I hit it? Yeah, probably pretty close. Eventually, that's an instinct. You don't even have to calculate.
Oh,
you
gosh,
just
yeah.
Had my chicken, had my eggs, had my fish, had my this. It's all instinctual. It is no longer work.
And that happens, too, with carbohydrates. We talk a lot about, eating lower carbohydrates. My brother Andy, who has type 1 diabetes, literally knows, like the back of his hand, how much carbs are in each of these items. It just comes with practice. But that was pretty cool how you did the Siri thing live. I didn't even know you were going to do that.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah. Now, sometimes she'll chime in when I don't want her to.
Yeah.
She's listening.
That timing was perfect. That was perfect. Is that a show?
That's a show.
Guys, go calculate this number as Lucas just did himself. You can just Google it, okay? Yeah. Take these calculations, Google what you're eating, track this protein number. It's super important. Lucas, man, thank you.
Thank you.
Great show, man. Guys, that was a great show.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next time.